So I used to have a series on this channel where I forced my roommates to watch Ninjago. It was a great time. They managed to get through 4 whole seasons of the show, which, while that's not even a quarter into the franchise's run at this point, it is still, and this is true, a lot.
Wait, are we done?
That's season 4. We're done! There are a bunch of great memories that I formed with them, but one has lingered in my mind more than most.
What does it say?
What, none of you can read?
It says he's alive.
They're all
What?
They're all Can the ninja read? This may seem like a simple question. Like, that seems like a very basic skill most characters in an 80-hour franchise would need to have, lest it become a problem in the plot. But Ninjago's strange world building makes this a much harder question than it should be. Keep in mind, this is a cast of characters who had never been to a city before the show's start. This is a world made up of a lot of rural villages where it's not uncommon for children to raise each other. This is a world where text is a discouraged form of communication because the audience over the fourth wall is largely children who may or may not be able to read. This is a world with many different languages, which occasionally uses English text and occasionally uses gibberish, and nowadays uses a simple letter swap cipher where the coded text on screen may translate to actual words to be seen by our characters, or a nonsensical repetitive background joke for viewers' eyes only. You're probably ruling out a couple of characters in your head right now based on what you think you know about them, but ask yourself, do we ever actually see them reading something on screen? Can you be certain that we have undeniable proof for every single one of these characters? Well, in honor of the 15th anniversary of this franchise, I figured I'd finally put this long-running curiosity of mine to rest with an in-depth investigation. I am watching through the whole series front to back yet again, completely unable to simply sit back and enjoy myself because my mind must be laser focused on one question and one question only. Can the ninja read? Place your bets now! Can they all read? None of them? Half of them? Is this a pointless quest which will immediately prove me wrong thanks to some scene in episode 1 which proves all of the ninja are college level readers, which I have just somehow forgotten about? I genuinely think no one can really know for sure at this point. Now, I'm gonna guess that not everybody watching this is completely caught up on the series. So for those who may need a quick review, it's worth breaking down how much content we're working with here. The original run of the show went for 15 seasons, not including specials or shorts, with 6 total mainline ninja and a bunch of characters that you can argue are part of the ninja team at one point or another. There's 210 episodes, 15 different Zane fake-out deaths. Lloyd gets 2 different girlfriends, neither of which work out for drastically different reasons. Kai goes into government for a little bit. We finally got a Cole season, and Jay and Mia get married. Maybe. It's weirdly pretty unclear. But that only accounts for 60 out of the 80 hours of content that we have. The last 20 come from Dragon's Rising, which is Ninjago's sequel show. It's in the same continuity, and the ninja are a little bit aged up, now mentoring our next generation of ninja, meaning a bunch of new characters to include into the question, can the ninja read? Aaron is our first ninja on the team with no powers. Wildfire was raised by dragons. Ryu is a dragon. Frak is Serpentine. Sora is a cat girl, and they all fight this cat dude named Roz. I think that covers all of the people we'll be most interested in for this video, so if you haven't watched in a while, or I guess if you're watching in the future and there's even more ninja, hopefully that clarifies the lineup. I'm working with all of the mainline ninja up through Dragon's Rising Season 3. Now I'm going to hand you off to me from about 4 months ago now to tell you my headcanons and predictions for where these characters will land. Here we are. Hi! These are my predictions. I wanted to get them out of the way before I start rewatching the show or thinking about anything all too hard. The question, of course, that we're asking today is, can the ninja read? All right, so first off, let's just get a bunch of the easy ones out of the way. Woo! I think Woo can read. I feel like he's always like reading scrolls and stuff.
You always know! You have a long white beard!
I don't remember specifically or anything, just like in general. It'd be really weird if he couldn't read. Next up, Zane. Not only do we have confirmation that he can read in the administration, but also that he can write. He writes a bunch of forms. On top of all of that, I feel like he's always decoding like ancient languages and stuff as well. I think he's multilingual, all confirmed by the series. Next up, let's talk about Sora. I think she can read. The main thing pointing me in this direction is that she is a child prodigy. Off the top of my head, I can't remember a time in the series where we actually see her read something. Like, I kind of have a vague recollection of maybe like her and Aaron reading like a flyer about something. Aaron, I am a little more sure about. Aaron, I think for sure he can read. The main thing keying me in here is the whole detective plot. I know in the flashbacks, detective books are mentioned. He talks about with his parents. Now, I don't remember specifically if he says that he read the detective books, but that does lead into the detective plot line where he's doing a bunch of research at the tournament. And I do distinctly remember an image of Aaron like holding up a book in front of his face, doing research. The last thing really solidifying this for me is Aaron's parents. I think that this is a home where you grow up and you learn how to read and write. Jay, I am 100% the most confident about. This guy can read, this guy can write, and I have so many examples just off the top of my head. First off, in season 6, he reads the book from his dad, the misogyny book. In season 11, he's the one carrying around the Clutch Powers book and reading it all while they're in the temple. That's how he learns to do the vocal exercises, bro bro goo goo.
Bro, bro, goo goo!
Another huge point of reference we have, comic books. We know this guy reads a bunch of comic books, but there's also a moment that I can recall in Skybound where Jay writes a letter to try and communicate with the rest of the ninja while he's stuck on Nautocon's ship. So we know that this guy can write as well. Just based on his background growing up in a junkyard, I think it might be possible to sort of stereotype him as not being able to read, but we know Ed and Edna were like the best parents. I'm sure that they taught him how to read if, you know, I don't know what his schooling situation was, if he went to school, if he was homeschooled. I find it likely he was homeschooled. We know Ed and Edna are the best, so I think solid confirmation on Jay. I am the most sure about this one. Lloyd, can Lloyd read? Again, at first, based on his background, you might think this is kind of up in the air. He was like abandoned by his parents and sent to this school for evil children. I don't know if they teach reading and writing at Darkleys. He also skipped a bunch of his childhood where he might have been developing his reading and writing skills. So like odds seem to be maybe stacked against this guy, but we actually have some pretty solid confirmation that Lloyd can in fact read. First off, just like Jay, he reads comic books. This, I guess flyer, poster? Lloyd, I'm like 99% sure is the one who reads that poster. And then also just in general, Lloyd is the main character. I feel like in being the main character, there's a lot of moments where he is reading something out to the audience, like a sign on a storefront or a flyer or a poster or something. Cole. This one's a little bit more tricky. The reason I remember Lloyd is the one who reads this tournament poster is because I even more distinctly remember Cole not reading the tournament poster.
What does it say?
Now, Cole's background, we know he dropped out of school. I don't know if he dropped out of school soon enough for it to be I missed learning how to read age, but also he went to a performing arts school. Do we know if Marty Oppenheimer offers English classes? Cole's dad, I also think, would be more willing of our parents to kind of let reading and writing slide. Not because he's a bad parent or anything, but I do think he's so like one-track mind that as long as Cole was doing well in his dance studies, he wouldn't mind as much. Also, I don't know when in his schooling his mom died. We see that she got sick at a pretty young age, and I feel like that amount of like emotional stress on him and the family might have meant that reading and writing might have slipped through the cracks if it wasn't super high priority. So it's all up in the air. I think it's completely possible that Cole knows how to read, but of all of our ninja characters, I think he's one of the least likely to know how to read, even if, you know, on average, chances are pretty high. Wildfire. I was kind of surprised when I sat down to think about it, but I think we have pretty solid confirmation that Wildfire can read. If I am remembering correctly, I think in the flashback scene, we see Caregiver Bot teaching her how to read. Same with Erin, she's on that whole research plot. There are a lot of like things that are read in that plot line, and she's doing that with Erin. Also in that tournament arc, she's the one to talk to this guy. I don't remember who this person is, what his name is. Sir! I remember that he helps her translate a book to help solve the mystery. So surprisingly, for a girl who was raised in the woods by dragons, she can read. Can Frack read? I don't know. Here are my 2 data points. He is a Serpentine. All the Serpentine were in Serpentine tombs for a really long time. I don't know like how old he is in relation to the tombs, but I feel like at least your parents being trapped underground, your whole society being trapped underground for however long, doesn't bode well for your ability to read and write. But I think also it's extremely likely that the Serpentine have their own method of reading and writing, so maybe he's literate in whatever Serpentine thing. We also know that Frack is friends with Erin. I feel like if there were like comic books or stories of the ninja that Frack wanted to read, Erin would have like been the type of guy to help him out, to teach him to read. I don't know enough about Frack, but I'd say out of all of our ninja, he is again one of the lower likely to be able to know how to read. I think we've got a pretty good handle on Nia. Nia can read. There's a whole plot line in Dragon's Rising where she stays behind at a library to do a bunch of research surrounded by a bunch of books. There's also just a lot of times throughout the series, like especially in the early seasons, where she's reading out information to the ninja, where she's doing research for their missions. And this may seem a little counterintuitive at first because we know Nia's background. She did not grow up with parents. I think the likelihood that she did go to school is lower than some of our other characters here. But even with all of those unknowns, she seems like the kind of kid who, even if no one taught her how to read, she would teach herself because she seems like a bit of a bookworm. But we cannot say the same for Kai. I've put this gold star on his slide because he is who I'm most interested in, because I don't think he can read. Even if this video shows that Kai can read, I think it will forever be my headcanon that Kai can't read, just because like it's a good and realistic piece of representation that like makes sense and is kind of sweet within the story. Just like Nia, we know his background. His parents disappeared at a very young age, and he is the one who had to step up to try and support his younger sister, meaning he probably dropped out of school at like a really young age. He's busy blacksmithing. That's what he's doing his whole life to support his sister, maybe so that his sister can go to school. Another example that I remember very directly, again, is from season 11. They go into Asphira's tomb, Clutch Powers is taking them through things, and he talks about his book, and Kai has this line where he's like, yeah, of course, I love books. Unfortunately, there are a couple of snags in the show that I'm remembering that could just totally disprove this whole theory. There is a fortune cookie in season 4 where Cole sends a fortune cookie to... Does that mean Cole can write? I'm just now realizing this. Hold on. But a fortune cookie gets up to the upper levels and Skylar gets it. So I'm like 90% sure that what happens is Skylar walks over, gives him the fortune cookie and is like, "You're lucky this didn't end up in the wrong hands," walks away. Kai looks at it and is like, "Oh, they're alive down there." The other thing at the top here, Darnagum Enterprises. Garbodon makes a fake construction company to destroy Dareth's Mojo Dojo. And there's this whole joke, and I'm pretty sure Kai is the one like, "No, it unscrambles to Garmadon," which again would imply that he can see the letters and unscramble them. We will see. Can Kai read? Now, we have one character left. Do you know who it is? Can Ryu read? So, I'm really unsure of how to approach this one. We're not gonna have a moment where Ryu looks at something and then reads it out to the audience. That's not gonna happen. So I don't know how we learn if Ryu can read. Can Ryu write? Imagine we have like one of those How to Train Your Dragon scenes where he's dragging around a giant stick in the dirt, but it's just him writing out this essay about what the ninja should do. I don't know. I don't know if Ryu can read. I don't know how we would find out if Ryu can read. Like, weirdly enough, I'm not prepared to say that he can't read. We know he has high cognitive abilities. We know that he is understanding the human languages around him. I think there are maybe some moments where he looks at something with writing and comprehends at least that it's important. I don't know if he comprehends what it's saying. I don't know. Can Ryu read? Now, the title of the video is Can the Ninjago Ninja Read? So I will be using literate to refer largely to everyone's reading ability, not necessarily their writing ability, although I will be tracking that as well. But again, we're mainly just here to see if these idiots can read. The question now becomes, how do we determine that? If our standard of evidence is too low, this is gonna be a very boring video. We have 80 hours of content to sift through. The chances that one of our main characters has escaped having been implied to read information without creator intent for them to be illiterate is essentially zero. And call me crazy, but I think our writers are probably working under the assumption that all of our characters can read. We are largely here today to see how plausible it is if we would like to headcanon otherwise. So to make things more interesting, I'm going to be using some pretty strict criteria here. I will be cataloging any hints at literacy that I see throughout the show, but in order to be certain that a character can read, I will be demanding pink level evidence. Now, starting at the bottom of our ranking, maybe we have a gray level observation. This is something that might hint at the idea of literacy, but doesn't really give us any clues either way. An example of this would be Cole's titular "What does it say?" line in season 4, which has sparked this whole debacle. Yellow level evidence is something which lightly implies a character can read without really showing much proof. An example of this might be something like the ninja in season 1 having books with words in them. We don't know if these are notebooks or textbooks. No one's writing anything in them or reads anything from them. Cole is doodling in his. The fact that they have text in front of them implies they would be able to read it, but we don't know. Green level evidence is when someone's ability to read is heavily implied. Like Misako doing research off screen and then summarizing her research for the ninja. We assume that she must have read a bunch of scrolls in order to do this, but she might have had an assistant reading for her. Maybe all of the scrolls were pictorial. Maybe she talked to a lot of community elders who passed down their history through vocal retelling. Maybe she listened to a bunch of audio scrolls scrolls. I don't know. People saying that they've read or written something also falls in this category. When Vanya says she's read all about the ninja, like, how do we know it wasn't just like one of her servants reading it to her? She's a princess. That's perfectly plausible. Now, I'm gonna be real with you. These first categories aren't really that strict. They're largely just vibes based. But our last category is not. Pink level evidence is fairly strict. In order to have hard, undeniable evidence of a character's literacy, they must either 1. See a text for the first time and do something to demonstrate that they understand its contents. 2. Visibly read at least a sentence worth of a piece of text verbatim, even if they have seen it before. Or 3. Have undeniable proof that they themselves wrote something. By the end of the series, when we tally up how much pink evidence each character has, and then the green and then the yellow, we should then be able to rank our characters from most literate to least literate. If someone goes a while without any pink evidence, it might be possible to argue that character learned to read over the course of the show. And if any of our main characters somehow escape this with no pink level evidence, well, at that point, it's almost irresponsible not to label them as illiterate. Now, I'll only be marking down one piece of evidence for each character per episode, lest things get too crazy. Obviously, the highest level wins out on what color evidence it ends up being, and I will be tracking stats for any character that I can, not necessarily just the ninja. Now, it is a long show, there are a lot of characters to watch, and I know I am not infallible. So hopefully I am able to catch everything, but if you do happen to remember any pink level evidence that I somehow missed, please let me know in the comment section below. All right, let's get started. Now, the pilot episodes don't give us much. Jay says that he dabbles in poetry, but can we really trust him on that claim?
I do a little inventing, I dabble in model building, touch of cooking, a little poetry.
Like, do we ever see this man write or recite poetry in this whole show? And then the other thing which might fall into our discussion here is maps. I thought I'd have a little bit more time before we had to veer off onto a tangent, but here we go. Okay, so does reading a map count as reading? I say no, at least not generally. Like, if the map reveals to the characters the name of a location that they wouldn't have known otherwise, then like, that feels like it counts, but otherwise, I can't bring myself to put this down as evidence. If you are familiar with the geography of the place that you are in, you don't have to be able to read the map to point out places and name them, because presumably you already know the names of those places and things. And just in this example, you can see the giant symbols of the weapons, and then you can orient yourself based on the surrounding terrain from there without having to read anything. There aren't even any words on this specific map as far as I can tell. In fact, and this is important, in general, I am going to assume that even objects which would typically have writing on them in our universe don't necessarily have writing on them in the Ninjago universe. This is a society which has a vast disparity in development rates between areas. It's not crazy to think that by comparison, this society may be more designed to be navigable by people unable to read. So, as much as a fun fact as it is that the skeletons just suck at reading maps,
It's upside down. They're digging in the wrong spot.
it is unfortunately not relevant to our discussion today. Moving right along, let's hit up the mini movies next. I've decided to include any short series listed on the wiki as being canon because, you know, I want to be thorough, but I am not going to be covering any of the canon book or comic content because there's a lot of it, and like, what, you want me to read for the reading video? Don't be ridiculous. The only short of interest to us in this set is Secrets of the Blacksmith, a short with some of the cutest Jaya content in the whole show, in my opinion.
Hey, Nia, maybe after this you want to go for
Oh, Jay.
But in this short, Nia ends up talking with one of the skeletons about Ninjago law codes.
Trespassing is against Ninjago law, paragraph 13, section 2.
Oh, I thought paragraph 13 was...
I think the implication here is supposed to be that both of these characters have read through the entirety of Ninjago's law code. Certainly nothing too strong, but some yellow level evidence, and a huge win to anybody who called Whiplash being the first side character to put some points on the board. Major kudos for that one. Insane snipe. That takes us into the show proper in episode 1, where I have to give slightly less kudos to everyone who called Zane, being the first character to visibly read on screen, a little bit easier of a call. Here, he reads the prophecy of the green ninja, when the other ninja can't.
But what does it say? It's written in chicken scratch.
Not chicken scratch, the ancient language of our ancestors.
I guess this is something we have to account for. So we now know that Zane has a basic understanding of this other language, but it doesn't really prove anything about his ability to read the language that the world is currently functioning under, which if it turns out that he doesn't have that ability, then that would still make him functionally illiterate in most circumstances. So I feel like I can't give this pink level evidence because it doesn't really get to the heart of the question, does it? Which then prompts the question, what language are we baselining all of this off of? When I'm asking if the ninja can read, what am I talking about? Read what? Does reading music count? Reading lips? Drag queen reads?
I'm trying.
You're failing.
Okay, so obviously our characters are all speaking the same language, so we just need to figure out what the written version of that language is. For everything past season 8, this has a pretty clear answer. This is Ninjargon, a collection of symbols which can be easily swapped with our standard alphabet to decode what things say in English. It was standardized with the release of the Lego Ninjago movie and is used pretty universally in the show as their baseline language from that point onward, with uses of English text being completely eliminated from the show after that point, as far as I could tell. So Ninjargon is what we are looking for our characters to read. But prior to season 8, we do have to make some assumptions. There was a separate, distinct set of characters used to depict text previously, which was somewhat standardized, but used inconsistently and with frequent mistakes. That's in addition to all of the English font used on a lot of signs. Do we count these as different written languages because they're so visually distinct? I'm going to say no. I think the creators would have used Ninjargon for most of their written text if they had thought to standardize it that early. And I personally don't think that any of our English text is diegetically in English, if that makes sense. I think these signs have been translated by movie magic so that the audience can read them, but in universe, I think these are all meant to be one language. You can disagree with me on that call, but this video is enough of a headache already. I say if they don't tell us that it's a separate language, then we assume it is Ninjargon. It's worth noting Ninjargon is the name of the written language and not the spoken language. The wiki tells me that the villain throwback shorts refer to Ninjago's spoken language as Ninjago language.
Kozu was known for being able to both both Stone Warrior language and Ninjago language.
Real creative stuff, guys. Also, what a random source for such a basic lore drop.
Maybe 4 arms makes you crazy, yes?
So, where does this leave Zane's reading of the ancient ancestral language? Well, I think what I'm gonna do here is start a whole new category of evidence. If anybody has pink level evidence of reading a language other than Ninjargon, I will note it down as cyan evidence. That way we can keep track of who might be bilingual and also reserve pink evidence for the language which is most relevant to our central question. Sound good? Hang in there. We're on episode 1. We've got a lot of show to get through. Episode 2 gives us a barrage of evidence when we do the montage about how Zane is weird. Cole is holding a newspaper, implying that he can read it, but I don't know, he could just be looking at the comics. And then cheese.
Cheese?
So in the original cut of the show, Zane is hanging out in the fridge and offers Kai cheese. But this was altered in certain locales so that he merely left a note in the fridge offering cheese, which would of course imply that Zane can write and Kai can read. However, this version kind of kills the joke. Leaving a note in the fridge isn't really a weird thing to do if you need to communicate with your roommates about food. I've done it before. To me, it's pretty clear that this change was forced upon the show to avoid depicting behaviors like climbing into a fridge to our child audience. But Zane being in the fridge is the obvious original intent, so I'm gonna stick to that version, which doesn't happen to have any consequences for our investigation today. I assume that the mailman is reading addresses in order to deliver the mail, you know, like how mail works. But we don't see anything actually on the outside of a lot of these letters, and with the specificity he gives about each of them,
Kai has a fan letter.
I guess it's possible that he is personally asking every person who sends a piece of mail who to deliver it to, and then remembering the specifics because, like, he has a photographic memory. Or maybe is the first Spinjitzu master. Just gonna throw that one out there. I'm gonna call this green evidence for the meme, but lest this become a problem in the future, I am going to allow myself to assume that things like letters or books have words, even if we don't specifically see them, or else I may just go insane this video. This also gives us some lesser evidences to lean on for those receiving mail. Jay gets a letter from his parents implying that they know he can read. Kai getting a fan letter doesn't really put any weight on the scales except to say his fans think he can read. And then interestingly, Cole gets something from his father, so even less assurance that there's text involved.
Oh, something from Cole's father.
Cole also has a package he ordered, whether online or through an order form or what, I don't know.
I'm expecting something from Creatures, Beasts, and Beyond.
I mean, presumably it will require some sort of reading, but again, I can't make assumptions. I guess he could have like gone into a shop, which then ordered it for him to be delivered to the monastery. There's options. And last for this episode, Lloyd tells this snake to hold up a no girls or ninja sign, implying that he can read it. Episode 3, we have another weird fringe case that I'm not sure how I'm supposed to judge. So while the ninja are cleaning up, Cole does Spinjitzu to clean up a bunch of old junk, carries it all outside, and when he arrives, there magically appears a sign which says garage sale. So, did Cole write this while doing Spinjitzu, presumably? Was it already in with the junk? Did somebody else prep it for him and he just took it outside? Did the Spinjitzu magically create it somehow? Tying back to the creation powers of the tornado of creation, an individual Spinjitzu tornado may be able to create something small, like a sign that says garage sale? That would be kind of a weird little power to tack on to Spinjitzu's specs. This is confusing enough that I have decided to classify this as yellow evidence and just move on. Ed tells Edna to write notes, implying that Edna can read and write.
I'm writing it down, Ed.
Mom! Dad! What are you doing here?
And Lloyd reads a map, which we see does have some sort of words on it. In episode 4, Wu appears to maybe be writing something in his downtime, but if we zoom in, it just appears to be scribbles. But then at the end of the episode, he lands himself some pink evidence by reading Jack the Rabbit to Lloyd.
And that is why Jack the Rabbit never trusts a snake.
Episode 5, we see these serpentine pictographs, which Cole can't read and Zane can.
These images describe a legend about one tribe uniting them all.
So that's another cyan point for Zane. That means we have confirmation of Zane being able to read 2 different languages before we get confirmation of him being able to read Ninjargon, which is kind of wild. Jumping to episode 7, we see Scales and Pythor both reading serpentine pictographs, and Zane finally finally getting his pink level evidence by reading both the treehorn sign
I am not familiar with a treehorn.
and the implied words on his blueprints, along with the physical words we can see on his inner mechanisms in order to find his various switches.
A memory switch.
I think I'm also comfortable giving Dr. Julian pink status, as though we don't see him physically writing or reading anything. He is quite literally the only person who could have written any of these words. Even if you want to argue he programmed like a little bot to do it for him, he would have to be the one to program the bot, so he would have to know how to write. The last thing of note this episode is that before Zane reads the treehorn sign, he is prompted to by Kai.
Hey, what do you make of this?
Oh, what do you make of it, huh? Why are you asking? Can you not make something of it? 'Cause you can't read it? Episode 8 has all of those notebooks / textbooks we talked about earlier. Nia is also seemingly teaching out of a similar looking book, implying that she has read the information inside, but again, it's all a little too unclear to be definitive. Pythor gets added to the Pink Pantheon when he reads the Mega Monster Amusement Park sign.
Welcome to a Mega Monster Amusement Park.
This is like gold standard evidence. He clearly has no idea where he is. He looks around. We see he looks at this sign and he gets information from the sign. Like it's so clear cut. In episode 9, Pythor doubles down on his reading ability, reading the Ninjago talent poster,
Open audition.
along with this snake,
Oh, look! A singing competition? I like singing.
whose name is Snike. Snike is a pink certified level reader. Also in this episode, Cole pulls out a photo book of his labeled My Photos, which I guess is something. And then there's this.
Troublemakers? Wait a minute, what are they doing here?
Now, the surprise question of the hour. Who did you hear saying that?
Troublemakers?
Because whoever you answer, presumably that person has just earned themselves pink level evidence. The only problem is, I can't tell who that is. No one can, it seems. The first time I watched it, I thought it was Kai.
Troublemakers?
I rewatched it several times because obviously that revelation was pretty devastating to me. But later in the process of making this video, I watched it again and went, wait, that's very clearly Jay talking here.
Troublemakers?
So I go to my all-powerful Megadoc in order to confirm with the transcript. Turns out that says that Cole is the one saying this line.
Troublemakers?
So I don't know what to think anymore. All 3 of these characters do not have a pink confirmation yet, so this is important to straighten out. I ask some friends who they hear, I get some mixed responses back, but they also tell me that they looked at the transcript and it says that Kai is saying this line. What?
Troublemakers?
After spending 5 years on the wiki saying it's Cole saying this line, someone switched it in 2023 to say that Kai is saying this line, which was after I had assembled my Megadoc. That's why it says something different. This confuses me further. So I decide to get a larger data pool. I put out a poll thinking that if we get a clear winner, then that can put things to bed. And after 168 responses, the results are just as mixed. One guy apparently hears Zane saying this line, so I don't know if I can trust anything anymore.
Troublemakers?
Multiple people get the idea to reference alternate language dubs to see if that can help confirm who's supposed to be saying this. That is a great idea. Apparently, both in Spanish and German, it's Jay saying the line, so I start to think we're onto something, but apparently in the Greek dub, it's Kai, and in the French dub, it's Cole. So I think this has just looped us back around to exactly where we started. At this point, someone could tell me that Dareth warps into existence to read this line in the Swedish dub, and I would probably believe them. I now begin to wonder if there is any piece of evidence which could convince me that we know for sure who is saying this line. Like if someone involved in the making of the show came out tomorrow and said, "Oh yeah, I remember, that was Cole's line." Like, recording for this season happened upwards of 15 years ago now. I don't trust anyone's recollections about specifics like this. If we were to get our hands on original script documents, that could only prove who was supposed to be saying it, but as the dubs prove, things don't always go according to plan, which happened, by the way. Nia's Kitten on Tumblr was able to dig up what looks to be original script documents, and those say that this was at least supposed to be Kai's line.
Troublemakers?
I think the only way that I could be convinced is if we got the original audio file. That way we could verify which actor's recording this line comes from. But that's never going to happen. I've come up with all of these rules on how to determine if a person reading is actually reading. I did not expect to need rules for how to determine if a person reading is actually that person.
Troublemakers?
I mean, after all, these early seasons had the wrong voice actor coming out of the wrong ninja's mouth all the time.
We're the guys that just saved the city from that giant snake.
Even if it is Vincent Tong's voice here, who's to say if we panned over it wouldn't be Zane talking?
No one move!
Who knows? Maybe that one guy is onto something. The only thing that I'm convinced of is that it is impossible to prove who said these two words.
Troublemakers?
And for that reason, I think it makes the decision here pretty simple. The whole point of pink evidence is to prove that there's no debate about if a particular character can read. And what we have here is a great deal of debate. And so for that reason, I have decided to award no points for this scene, meaning that this entire detour has been completely pointless. Isn't that great? I love this video. I love making this video. It's so fun.
Troublemakers?
We're almost to the end of the season. We can make it to the end of the season. That's a meaningful checkpoint. We can get that far. In episode 10, we run into our next big conundrum of this show, data. Big, large screens with charts on them. If a person is able to understand this stuff, does that mean they can read? Charts are inherently visual, but a lot of times they do require text in order to provide crucial context. This shot shows a section of text for sure. Does that mean that Nia is definitely reading it? She's gleaning information from something on this screen, and text is on this screen. This is a tough one, and again, you might disagree, but I think there's enough plausible deniability here to say no. If you are familiar enough with the stat readout you are using, you do not need to read the labels that it has there for reference. Shapes, colors, order, and layout of charts are going to give you all the important information you need if you are familiar with the setup you're working with, which most of the time our characters are. A lot of our stat readout screens don't even have any visible language, and even ones like this one, it's extremely unclear if that's something our characters are even paying attention to. This text is so ridiculously small. Do you think that Nia could even be reading it at this distance? Unless we see confirmed text on a chart that our characters are very clearly reading verbatim, not just summarizing information, I am going to lean on our rule that we assume things in the Ninjago universe do not have load-bearing text unless proven otherwise. I think it's plausible that the visuals themselves and whatever numbers accompany them are enough for our characters to produce conclusions from. By the way, I am running under the assumption that all of our characters understand how to read numbers. I'm not here trying to also track everyone's math abilities. This video already has enough going on. The last thing that we've really got this season are the ultrasonic radar designs. It's implied that Kai made them, and it looks like there is some text on them if you squint, but it's all too non-specific to really confirm anything. Now is probably a good time to mention that although engineering skills would absolutely give you an assumption of literacy in our world, I am again reserving judgment within the world of Ninjago. We just don't know enough about the culture and systems in place in this industry, in this universe, to be making assumptions. Maybe in Ninjago, most blueprints are wordless Lego-style instruction manuals. It would be on brand. So that's season 1. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but that run-through took a while. And I say we speed things up just a little bit or this video will literally drive me insane. So going forward, I won't go through every piece of evidence so exhaustively. I will only stick to mentioning pink and cyan confirmations along with any other evidence that I feel is personally interesting for one reason or another. But I will show you a full catalog of the data I collected at the end of each season so you can pause and read for yourself if you're interested in the nitty-gritty. That good with everyone? I hope so, because we're not changing it now. Season 2. Jay finally makes it up on the board by reading the Patty Keys flyer.
Patty Keys, real estate queen.
We see Captain Soto write in his journal, making him the first character in the series we know for certain can write. Garmadon then reads the journal, bringing him into the Pink Club.
You mean the ship belonged to a pirate crew long before the ninja ever had it?
Wu once again proves he can read by summarizing the letter from Darkly's.
It says here there's going to be a ceremony.
Episode 4, and you know what time it is. It's Darnagom time. Zane reads out Darnagom from the side of this wrecking ball, but Dareth had already said the name of the company earlier.
Some developer named Darnagom Enterprises.
Wait a minute. Darnagom?
Jay unsuccessfully attempts to unscramble the letters, and Kai is the one to do it correctly.
It spells...
Oh, Grandma?
No! Garmadon!
I don't think this actually gives us any confirmations because this is a pretty easy unscramble to do just auditorily. Not too hard to work out that Darnagom might be an anagram for Garmadon, even if you're not 100% sure all the letters you're working with. But this does imply that Jay's word puzzle skills aren't really that great. Strangely enough, even though Mother Doomsday runs a comic book shop, we don't ever actually see him read anything on camera, so he's just stuck at green level evidence. Starting in episode 7, we have a long streak of Misako explaining her research before in episode 10, she finally gets her pink status by reading about the instrument of peace.
Here it is written, for once the green ninja finds the instrument of peace, he will strike it and know the power of the ultimate spinjitzu master.
Also, Dr. Julian likes reading adventure stories.
Oh, I did a lot of reading in my spare time. Adventure stories were my favorite.
The last thing really of any interest this season is that Jay doesn't know what bequeathed means, so...
Bequeathed? Anyone? Is anybody gonna help me out with that?
That might imply that he's not particularly well read. For some reason, this season seems very set on degrading Jay's reading ability, despite also confirming it this same season. Rebooted! Weirdly enough, a lot of gray area this season. There's a lot of technology focus, which prompts the question, coding? Does coding require the use of written language in this universe? Do computers have keyboards the way our computers have keyboards? Well, not any with letters, at least that we see. In fact, for the number of people typing on computers and creating new tech and bypassing the main subnet to overwrite the existing corrupted code, we never get outright confirmation that any of this requires you to be able to read or write. As far as we know, Ninjago's computer setups have an entirely different logic interface, and as per my established guidelines, I am not going to assume that things have language unless we have confirmation that they have language. When the ninja enter the Digiverse, the coding, which would typically be like ones and zeros in our universe, instead appears to be made up of letters. But I don't think that necessarily proves anything because, like, we all use computers all the time, and I don't know binary code. Additionally, we don't see that these letters are being used as language and not just symbols to hold values within the operating system. So no, the fact that Cyrus Borg created a whole tech empire by himself does not in fact get him pink status. He has to earn that, like everybody else. So, what does this season show us? Well, all the ninja are teachers, but we never actually see exactly what they teach. We don't know that reading and writing are classes at Wu's academy and or who's teaching them. Jay writes his name on a pudding cup, which I'm not gonna count as hard evidence that he can write. Your name is the first thing you learn to write, even if you can't read or write. Like, there are tiny little toddlers that can write their name. I don't think that's proof of anything. Cole makes a joke that MC stands for Mighty Cole.
I am the MC, the Mighty Cole!
Which of course implies that he knows mighty starts with an M and his name starts with a C. That's the strongest evidence we have for Cole so far, but it's also pretty easy to deduce just through phonetics. And again, half of it is just about him spelling his own name. Just an episode later, he silently stares at a Starfarer comic, and when trying to operate equipment at the power station, declares,
None of these buttons are doing anything.
which is great. Like, he just has no clue what's going on, so he just started pushing random buttons, looking around to see if it was doing anything, and he's like, well, none of these buttons must do anything.
None of these buttons are doing anything.
Also implying that if any of these buttons are labeled, he couldn't read the labels. So in episode 4, we learned that Scales purchases the newspaper and claims to enjoy crosswords.
What can I say? I'm a sucker for the crossword.
Kai also identifies the newspaper as the Ninjago Times, but it's unclear if he read the heading or maybe if there's a logo that he was able to identify, or if he's just making that assumption based on it being the one newspaper in the city. Jay gets some pink added to his total by reading the word Arcturus.
Arcturus?
And the mailman gets his pink confirmation by spelling out Carrot Cup Juster.
What's a jester?
I don't know. Yet.
To top things off, I'm going to give Nia her pink status thanks to her summarizing this book about the comet the ninja are on.
They eat through metal!
Honestly, really surprised it took her this long to join the club. Tournament of Elements, the place this all started.
What does it say?
Cole's asking what the poster says is the first thing worth mentioning in the season, and Lloyd reading the poster gives him his pink confirmation.
It says he's alive.
Unfortunately here, I forgot that it's not the poster that gives them the details about the tournament. The fortune cookies are. The ninja proceed to go around in a circle reading their fortune cookies. Lloyd,
Master Chen has personally invited you to participate in his Tournament of Elements.
and Jay,
Meet on the pier at midnight and leave your weapons behind.
and Kai.
Secrecy is of the utmost importance. Tell no one or suffer the consequences.
Yikes. I mean, that's some pink level evidence right there. It's not even like an excessively simple message. There were a couple bigger words in there.
Secrecy is of the utmost importance.
Which really kind of bums me out. Like, I had my heart set on him going at least pretty far. It's funny too, because I did think a fortune cookie might be his downfall. I was just worried about the wrong cookie. That being said, Cole does not read his fortune because he eats it. In fact, Cole did not know that fortune cookies had fortunes inside of them.
You do realize there's a fortune inside, right?
Oh, so that's why they're called that.
There really is just so much of Cole being illiterate in this scene. Now that I'm looking at it, he is the last of our original ninja not to have pink level evidence. Cole is my last hope. So remember that fortune cookie later that I thought would kill me? Does that mean Cole can write? So Cole is the one to send that fortune cookie.
You put message in cookie?
I know, right? That's why it's called a fortune cookie.
But we don't see him write it. He never claims to have written it. I think it's plausible enough that he could have gotten somebody else to write it for him. And though I thought Kai reading the fortune might have been his run kill, turns out he's not the one who reads it. Skylar is the one who receives the cookie first, reads it, and then summarizes it for the rest of the group.
My fortune tells me Cole and your friend Zane will be breaking out.
Which, by the way, gives her pink evidence. Kai appears appears to look at the fortune as to confirm what she's saying, but he never reads anything. That's far from proof. I was just worried about the wrong cookie, man. Like, we already got our proof for the season, but it's kind of fun knowing that if that didn't exist, we would still be rolling. We see Nia read out Klaus's spell book, not out loud, but she does clearly digest and attempt to explain what it says, so that's good enough for me.
This will change everything.
The other main thing making waves this season is the old people love triangle. So Wu writes Misako a love letter which Chen steals and presents to Garmadon to convince him to sign it himself. This situation implies that all 4 of these characters can read. We already know most of them can, but how do we actually give out points here? We don't see Wu write the letter. It is possible he just dictated it. That might explain why he didn't sign it. Garmadon silently reads the letter in front of Chen, but he is visibly affected by its words, and I guess likes it enough that he's willing to sign his own name on it.
I didn't write this. I shouldn't be reading it.
Misako receiving a letter doesn't necessarily say anything about her ability to read, and Chen stealing the letter means that he knows it was a love letter, but he could have just overheard Wu talking to himself about it or dictating it if he was dictating it. So weirdly enough, this plotline wholly revolving around a letter only gives us 1 pink to add to the pile. Flashback Garmadon just continues racking up pinks by reading the spell to banish the Anachondri generals to the Cursed Realm, and this itself spurs another long line of people reading stuff. Pythor presents Garmadon with the solution to the end battle in the spellbook.
But if the generals you banished to the Cursed Realm so long ago saw this mockery...
Garmadon then reads out the solution, which is for someone else to read out a different spell.
Unless he that cursed them takes their place.
Which both Wu and Lloyd do.
Komodo.
And that's not to mention the other plot-important spell, which Kapow and Chop read out, and Chen reads the description of.
One must obtain the essence of a true anachondri.
Now, these spells are in another language, and it's not clear that any of our readers understand the words that they are saying, but this is still proof of their reading ability in that they can effectively sound out words they are unfamiliar with well enough that the spells still work. Weirdly enough, for as many confirmations as Klaus's spellbook gave us, Klaus was not one of them. He never reads from his own book. Go figure. Moving right along to possession, most of this is pretty straightforward. Zane and Jay read this book in Yang's temple.
Listen to this! As iron sharpens iron, sensei sharpens student.
Jay reads about Dareth in the Cloud Kingdom.
Hey guys, he's writing about Dareth!
All of our Cloud monks are writing constantly. I'm not gonna bother tracking who specifically and how many times. All of the Cloud Kingdom monks get 1 blanket pink confirmation, and we're just gonna leave it at that. Kai reads a letter about Steep Wisdom being shut down just to pour some additional salt in my wounds here.
It says they're gonna shut us down unless we drum up some business.
And Misako reads the riddle about the first Spinjitzu Master's tomb.
A Spinjitzu Master can. A Spinjitzu Master cannot.
Just a whole lot of confirmations. I will point this out though, still nothing on Cole. Thought that was worth a mention. Skybound is a lot messier. At the beginning of the season, we learned that all of the ninja are in a TV show about reading.
But I don't know what it says. Can anyone help me read it?
We can, because reading is the first step to every adventure.
Thing is, we don't actually see them read anything while doing this, so counterintuitively, this doesn't actually give us any information for our video today. Lloyd reads this magazine cover, knowing that it's talking about him becoming a master.
Sensei Lloyd.
You could argue that Cole also reads this magazine cover in order to know that it's talking about the Jay, Cole, Nia love triangle drama.
And what's this about me and Jay still fighting over Nia?
But if we're being real here, I don't think you need to be able to read to pick that up. We see Kai send out a chirp, which we can assume is similar to a tweet.
Are you sending out a chirp?
My followers have needs too.
In fact, later we see that his posts show up as text on other people's phones, so it is a text-based thing that he's sending out. But I will just point out, he is speaking his message aloud, and his hands are not moving as if he's typing on his phone screen.
Of course I'm at the hospital. My hair is sick.
So I actually think it's pretty plausible he's using voice to text here. In fact, with how giant Lego hands are, I think people would be using voice to text a majority of the time. How do you type on a phone keyboard with claw hands? Wu reads, "Be careful what you wish for."
Be careful what you wish for.
Zane reads about the teapot of Tyron.
The ancient markings on the side describe it's a powerful relic.
Ronan holds a newspaper. Jay reads the letter telling him his dad has passed.
I'm sorry to inform you, but your father has passed.
Nia types the password of password, meaning she can spell.
The password is password. You got that?
That worked.
Edna holds a newspaper. Jay reads the misogyny book.
Cliff Gordon's handbook to wooing women?
And writes on the back of blueprints, so writing confirmed for him.
Don't worry about me.
And then Clancy officiates the marriage at the end of the season, reading out of this book.
Under the watchful eye of this seventh son, may this crown codify this renewal today and years to come.
One of our more text-heavy seasons, I think. Pretty fitting for a season all about the specificity of words. And here we arrive at Day of the Departed. There is only one notable thing that happens in this special. And unfortunately, it is this clip.
Although known to some as the master without a student, Kodokuna Yang will be remembered by most as the creator of air jitsu, the most powerful martial art in history. Actually, I remember Yang as the guy who turned me into a ghost.
So Cole can read. I feel so defeated. We're not even 7 seasons in. We've got a heck of a lot more show to get through. And already we have airtight confirmations for all of our main characters. I mean, this is pretty undisputable. He walks up to this display by himself and he reads off of this plaque, which is...
Kodokuna Yang will be remembered by most as the creator of air jitsu.
Hold on. Hold on a freaking second! Do you see where the plaque is? And then do you see where this man's eye line is? He is clearly looking at the portrait above the plaque, not the actual plaque, which is like nearly on the ground. And it's not just that he's looking up, he's looking up. It does certainly sound like he's quoting a museum plaque.
Kodokuna Yang will be remembered by most as the creator of air jitsu.
But he's not looking at it. You can't convince me that he is. Besides, that's not even what this plaque says. This appears to directly read the master Kodokuna Yang, and I think this next word is meant to be remembers, but it's missing a second M, so probably just a typo. And then the last word here is definitely air jitsu. So altogether, the master Kodokuna Yang remembers air jitsu, which... it's not a real sentence, which does sort of loosely follow along with what Cole is saying here, but it's far from a one-to-one. And it doesn't include the whole master without a student bit.
Although known to some as the master without a student.
Honestly, I think the real answer here is that Cole isn't reading the plaque. He's just sort of rambling to himself. This is just like sort of an awkwardly extra expositional character line. Whoa, hey look, this is a portrait of Sensei Yang, aka the master without a student. He created air jitsu, although I remember him for him turning me into a ghost. Master Wu is the very one who caused the merge. You know, that sort of thing. Like, it doesn't feel entirely out of character either. I feel like Cole has a lot of little moments like this where he argues through his thoughts because he's alone.
As soon as you step out there, it's gonna freeze you solid. Quit talking like that!
I genuinely think this is a perfectly reasonable explanation. My mom also suggested that perhaps he's just making up what he thinks is on the plaque because he can't read it, which I think is kind of funny.
Kodokuna Yang will be remembered by most as the creator of air jitsu.
Look, I'm still going to mark this down as pink evidence, but I propose that on the off chance this is the only piece of pink Cole evidence we get, we lean into the plausible deniability and strike it from the record. Like, I'll just add a little asterisk right here and we'll come back to it down the line to see if this pink actually materializes or not. I feel like that's the least we can do considering he's not even looking at the writing. Plus, I need to keep this video interesting. We got a lot to get through still. Hands of Time is surprisingly light. There are no pink confirmations. Lloyd draws a bunch of potential locations instead of just writing them out like you would in an ordinary brainstorming session, almost like he's accommodating for someone in the group who can't read. And then our strongest hints come in the form of Nia using a computer and Kai flipping through books doing research in frustration. I will say, this scene gets a lot funnier if you imagine Kai can't read. He's running around looking at the helmet and then at random book pages, presumably just hoping to happen upon a picture in one of them with the symbol on the helmet. The amount of time he's actually spending looking at these pages suddenly makes a little more sense. He's in the background with a book, just scratching his head like, book, how do book?
I haven't got a clue.
It's honestly great. 10 out of 10. I laughed very hard. Sons of Garmadon is surprisingly sparse, especially for being our first season with that solidified Ninjargon script. Harumi says she's read about the ninja. Mistake appears to label her T's with writing. Lloyd reads Strangler's Path off of this map.
You just have to get past this part that reads Strangler's Path.
And Lloyd, and or Harumi, but it's implied to be Lloyd, writes a message to the ninja, which Nia then reads.
He and Rooney are going to the temple.
It says, going to find temple, we are okay. For some reason, these words are not written. You know, like with any sort of natural resource you might use to mark something up, maybe a writing utensil which you happen to have on your person, or any number of materials that you might have on the mech. No. Instead, they have painstakingly and flawlessly carved these tiny individual letters into this leaf for some reason, which I will note also makes these floating leaf pieces in the middle of the E's impossible. Why did Lloyd think that this was the most efficient way to communicate his message? Easy. We all know he has a very special relationship with palm fronds.
Hey guys, look at how many palm fronds I found!
So this was probably faster than writing it, honestly. Hunted is somehow even more sparse. Jay creates blueprints which appear to have some writing on them, and Wu and Cole utilize those blueprints. That is literally it, the whole season. That's all I wrote down. I guess there's not much time to read in the apocalypse, huh? March of the Oni has about an equal amount going on, with Zane reading information about the Realm Crystal.
The Realm Crystal is currently housed in the new high security vault.
And Gale Gossip writing a news report before being very rudely interrupted.
Great. Now I have to rewrite this whole thing.
Now, I would hate to jinx it, but I will just point out, we've gotten through the entirety of the Will Film era, and no pink Cole. We've made it this far! Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu, the beginning of the Wild Brain era. Honestly, a lot to talk about. Lloyd lent Kai a Starfarer comic, which he hasn't finished, or perhaps never even started.
You lent it to me, remember?
Like a year ago.
Take it.
Zane reads a travel book about the Desert of Doom.
Local tribes once worshipped a giant 1,000-year-old beetle.
Jay carves a tombstone for the ninja. It turns out this Kai line isn't quite as damning as I remember it being. I love books.
Yeah, I loved that book.
But still, he for sure has not read Clutch's book. Zane reads some more serpentine hieroglyphs. I think that's the first cyan we've had in a while.
Beware ye who enter the serpent's tomb.
Sammy, the paperboy delivery leader, reads from his clipboard.
10 speed and Spokes are out with injuries and Knuckles quit.
Jay reads booby traps and how to survive them.
He recommends vocal exercises like Bro, goo goo!
Esfira reads the Ninjago History Museum poster, which I think is fascinating.
The Ninjago Museum of History presents ancient weapons of the First Age.
She has been locked up for thousands of years.
Thousands of years.
And yet she comes out and is able to read and understand this language, implying that Ninjargon has not only been around for that long, but has remained largely unchanged for all of that time. Kind of crazy, huh? Kai, Cole, and Jay all go into the Serpentine tunnels and confirm they cannot read Serpentine.
I don't suppose either of you know how to read Serpentine.
However, the letters that we see all appear to be Ninjargon characters, very different from the ancient Serpentine hieroglyphs that we've seen. So this appears to be an entirely separate Serpentine language, which shares an alphabet with Ninjargon. I love lore like this. This is so cool. Is this cool to you? This is cool to me. Acidicus, much like Mother Doomsday, we don't actually have pink evidence for, even though he is a librarian by profession, and he loves books.
He loves books.
Wu reads a scroll as a child, which the first Spinjitzu master is writing.
The Art of Forbidden Spinjitzu.
We get to see Clutch Powers writing out his memoirs, proving that his books are actually written by him.
Both the treasure and her heart would belong to me.
Cecil Putnam reads a book of artifacts.
Scroll of Forbidden Spinjitzu.
And the Mechanic and Ultraviolet read the newspaper which blows over prison walls.
So it's true.
It's worth noting that once the ice chapter hits, reading straight up disappears. There is no reading in the Neverrealm. Now, it's maybe worth mentioning that in the Ice chapter, Sorla does mention the Old Tongue.
In the Old Tongue, it is called Mala Ojira.
Now, this is a language that pops up again throughout the series. It's most commonly associated with Wu's scrolls.
The language in which my oldest scrolls are written.
It is a very old written language. But here in its first appearance, it's being mentioned in an entirely other realm and as a spoken language. So at one point or another, there was crossover between Ninjago and the Neverrealm for this language to exist in both places. And who knows, maybe here in the Neverrealm, it is still in use as a written language or even as a spoken language, and we just don't hear them using it here in this season. It doesn't award us any points this season for reading, but it is interesting language lore. Prime Empire. This one is a lot like Rebooted in that there's iffy stuff in the plot when it comes to reading, because most of this season takes place inside of a video game. Now, if you exist in a video game, there is an argument to be made that anytime you read text, it could just be you absorbing the information in the game's code, as you are also part of the game's code. So anytime we see our characters read in Prime Empire might just be null and void. And while I might be open to this idea for our NPC characters, I think for our main cast and any other player characters who have been trapped inside, we can still count them as reading. Jay reads Prime Empire.
Look at it! It says Prime Empire right on the side!
Kai reads some assorted game titles.
Fist to Face 4? Unfinished Adventure Game 1.
Fujidove steals a newspaper. Borg has supposedly done a deep dive into Prime Empire's code, but again, it's hard to parse what that even means in this universe. Nia also alters code later in the season, and it really just gives us no further clues.
It's computer code.
This J-Stan reads their stats.
Super backflip flying kick.
Jay reads about an ogre side quest.
Here's one where we can fight an ogre. That could be fun.
And Nia reads the description of the air jitsu power-up.
Cyclones are not a good thing.
Also, Zane has downloaded a bunch of detective books.
Since we are engaged in detective work tracking down a missing person, I have downloaded thousands of detective books and movies as research.
Does information being directly beamed into your brain count as reading? I'm gonna go with no. Like, I knew the technology would be a problem going in, but I didn't think that Zane would be contributing to the question marks. And here we approach Master of the Mountain, a full season centered on Cole. If there's any place he is more likely to read something, it's probably this season right here. So, Let's see what we've got. The inciting incident is a letter from Shintaro. Okay, so this is looking very dangerous already. Luckily, it is Jay who reads it, so that's good.
King Vangelis of the Northern Kingdom of Shintaro of the Skyfolk kindly requests your presence.
Later in the episode, it seems like Zane is referencing booby traps and how to survive them when talking about the dire bats. Vanya cannot shut up about how much stuff she's read.
I've read all about your adventures. I read in a book by the highly acclaimed adventurer and explorer Clutch Powers. I know this story. It's in one of my books.
And it takes until the end of the season for us to get some solid confirmation that she can actually read.
I, Princess Vanya, of the Kingdom of Shintaro, do hereby solemnly swear.
Wu reads the old tongue on these doors.
Into this refuge and sanctuary.
And okay, this next point is actually really cool. The Geckles take Kai and Zane to their story cave. This appears to be the primary way that the Geckles document their history, with these huge cave paintings. Even within this society, which seems fairly advanced in its language and democracy.
It is here where the history of the Geckle people is kept.
There appears to be no logical narrative here.
That's so cool to me, that this larger visual representation would be the most prioritized form of documentation over other smaller, more compact forms that they are no doubt capable of. In general, I just really like all of the little cultural quirks that the writers have created for this world in Master of the Mountain, for the Geckles especially. They have the story cave and throwing rocks to show support, and the slug races and the lever bonfire festival.
We symbolically burn all spare levers to stop evil from having leverage over our hearts.
They just feel like a much more personable, tangible, realized people than like we get in later seasons with the Merlopians or the Islanders. I just really like what they're doing here.
This statue was carved with love and gratitude by Geckle and Munn's craftsmen.
No. No. No! I thought we could make it. I really thought we could make it. Yeah, there's like no denying. He's looking at the plaque this time, and there's no way that he would know the information if he weren't looking at the plaque. I translated it, and of course it says it word for word, exactly what he's saying. There's no wiggle room here. I can't. Congratulations, Cole, for getting your certified pink evidence. You can join the pink club, unfortunately. I'm legitimately kind of sad. This is silly, but like I thought we could get one. You know, we could get one of them as a little treat. But no, I guess Cole likes reading plaques too much to let that happen. And I guess that's 2 of them now, because the first one counts now. Plus, there's that Lego.com description that talks about him bringing books to battle in case he gets bored. I know I said I wasn't going to include out-of-show content, but I have talked about it before, so I thought it was worth mentioning. That means all of our main characters are off the table now. Until we get to Dragon's Rising. Let's get there, shall we? Seabound gives us Wu reading from scrolls.
But there is no mention of water.
Kalmar reading from scrolls.
Is there any truth to these claims of an ancient temple at the bottom of Tartarus Trench?
The king reading from scrolls. Bentho bringing Kalmar scrolls. It's a very scroll-heavy season. This line from Cole is just taunting me now.
I believe so.
Well, what does it say?
Like, this would be a really funny bit of evidence to add to the stack if we didn't already know that he could read. But Sammy reads his clipboard again.
Oh, what do you know? All the routes are open. That's a first.
Zane downloading sailor novels and flexing a new language in his data set, a primitive dialect predating the first Spinjitzu master.
Go no further, ye who seek something. It is a very primitive dialect that predates the first Spinjitzu master.
The wiki says that this is Merlopian. I'm not 100% if that name is actually confirmed, but it would make sense. It is interesting that we have this separate ancient dialect apart from the Old Tongue, which dates back to the first Spinjitzu master, and then Ninjargon, of course, which dates back at least as long as Asphira. This Merlopian dialect seems obviously native to pre-first Spinjitzu master Ninjago. So did the first Spinjitzu master bring over the Old Tongue to Ninjago when he came, or Ninjargon, or both? Did one of these writing systems combine with Merlopian to produce the other? I think it's also worth noting that Kalmar has this line about surface dweller language.
What does that even mean in surface dweller language?
Obviously, he's speaking in the same language as our other characters this whole time, but some might argue that this means Merlopian as a written language is still in use. And while we do see him writing something which looks similar to the language predating the first Spinjitzu master in his research, all the scrolls we see him reading and which actually give him points are using the Ninjargon alphabet, unlike the ancient language seen on the doors. Now, this could be like a Serpentine situation where Merlopian just shares an alphabet while being a separate language from Ninjargon, which would then also be separate from the ancient language predating the first Spinjitzu master that we see on the doors. But seeing as we don't have confirmation of any of this, and we do see Kalmar reading something that is confirmably in Ninjargon,
it's on autopilot!
For the purposes of this list, I will continue the assumption that all writing using Ninjargon characters that was shown this season was Ninjargon. Crystallized has a fair amount to work with. Nia reads these lanterns and this Samurai X note.
Dear Nia, dear Samurai X.
Wu is looking at all sorts of scrolls and news clippings from Garmadon throughout the season, and then reads the Old Tongue from Quanish at the end of the season.
Through a selfless act will main and might.
Dareth makes his first appearance on the board, like at all, any level of evidence this season, by being a lawyer who is constantly surrounded by paperwork. He never actually reads any of it or attempts to read any of it, but it's something. Kai seemingly reads Sally's name off of her guitar case.
Are you moving or something, Sally?
Lloyd reads a message from the Serpentine before also writing one for them.
Sorry. Closed due to Overlord attack.
Why he chooses to use this chalkboard instead of intricately carving letters into a leaf, I don't know, but I guess this works too. Okay, I do just have to come back in here and add, I was struggling to translate this, and then I realized it's because it's upside down. The message that the Serpentine wrote was right side up. I don't know why this man is just incapable of writing anything down normally. Ronan and Jay both read in the background, and Misako, as per usual, is doing research off screen. Now, that's the full original run of the show. Big shocker, all the ninja can read. Who could have guessed? Not me, apparently. But Dragon's Rising at this point makes up like a full quarter of the franchise's runtime. Even though we already know that all of our main characters can read, there is still plenty of time left for the amount of evidence each character has to drastically shift, which will affect our literacy rankings at the end. Plus, we've got new characters to scope out. Like, we've still got to figure out if Ryu can read. I'm sure that'll be a fun headache as we go through this. Season 1, Part 1, one of the first pieces of relevant information we get is a bunch of our characters looking through scrolls and Ryu immediately bringing Lloyd the one they're looking for. Holy cow! There's no way it's that easy. The first confirmation in Dragon's Rising cannot be Ryu.
What did you find?
The land of the three mountains.
Oh, okay. No. It's a pictorial scroll. It is all visual information here, folks. False alarm. I was a little bit freaked out there for a second. There's lots of talking about scrolls and passively looking at scrolls. Kai wrote a bunch of messages for the ninja while alone in the middle of nowhere.
These are definitely Kai's notes.
Nia stays behind at one point in the Cloud Kingdom to do research, which we actually see her doing a couple episodes later.
If the coalescence returns...
We see Sora type out fake name badges for everyone, giving her pink level evidence and also writing evidence.
Call me Doyle Dunmagar.
That's with 2 L's?
Obviously.
We also get flashbacks of Sora in school, where reading and writing are clearly taught. And apparently, Imperium is also using Ninjargon. So not only is it an extremely old language, but also a cross-realm language. That's so interesting. How did it get there? Where did it originate in the first place? Wildfire. We do see Caregiver Bot teaching her how to read, as I predicted, but it's just one word which she repeats after Caregiver Bot says it.
Can you say family?
Family.
So I don't actually think this is pink level evidence. I'm going to have to wait for something a little more concrete for Wildfire. Let's be real, it's very possible she ignored a lot of the lessons Caregiver Bot was trying to give her. In part 2, we have this Crossroads announcer reading people's names.
And a newcomer named Blaine!
Frohickey alphabetizing the library. Ryu picking up a copy of Booby Traps and How to Survive Them before dropping it. I'm not sure if that adds anything to our discussion or not. And of course, the administration. I'm gonna do the same thing that I did with the Cloud Kingdom monks. If you work in the administration, you can read. I'm giving you a blanket pink evidence, and I'm not tracking after that. But Zane also writes notes, which both Lloyd and Aaron read.
Duck, turn right and go straight.
That's Aaron's first pink confirmation, by the way. And then of course, Zane has the whole scene of him filling out forms, which is certainly worthy of another pink stamp to add to his belt. In season 2, part 1, Aaron reads this shop sign.
All Realm Antiques Emporium?
And Sora reads a letter from Creel.
It says she has urgent need of ninja assistance.
Zane has another pink level spat with the administration.
This doesn't have the mandatory 5-21Z appendix.
The Roxian is a new language introduced this season, and the only person we actually see reading it is Roz. Although it is heavily implied that Jordana learns to read it over the course of the season. In part 2, we get Sora using a computer in the administration, which is a great time to bring up our argument that computers do not use Ninjargon in this universe. The computers at the administration use these weird abstract symbols, and all interaction Sora does with the computer involves these symbols, nothing else. We do sometimes see Ninjargon pop up on these administration computers, but only in reference to people whose names are in Ninjargon. Like, I think this is an important distinction. The administration is using Ninjargon. Their forms are in Ninjargon, but the computer interface, no Ninjargon. I think this justifies my computer rule, right? Like, because if we're going by these computers, most of your computer experience does not involve reading. We do get a scene of Ryu drawing out a symbol in the dirt. This implies that if Ryu can read, he could theoretically write to communicate to the team more specifically. Again, I'm not sure that this necessarily puts any weight on the scales either way, but it is something. A bunch of letters get sent out for the Tournament of Sources, and we see Euphrasia and arguably Zeatrix confirmably read theirs on screen, but no one else.
An invitation to the Tournament of the Sources?
In our very first appearance of Frack, he gets a notification about training, which calls him away from the conversation from Roz, which presumably would involve some amount of text.
The master just sent a training alert.
But I can also see this being just like a generic push notification with a symbol that you know means like, hey, time for training. Maybe there's like an app that Roz's students have. This whole situation is honestly kind of ridiculous. Just imagining Roz typing away on his phone like, hey guys, training in 5 minutes, see you there. I think this scene confirms that Roz must have a smartphone, and I find that very funny. We get another Cole plaque scene. I don't know why there's so many of these. This time though, he isn't the one reading it. Geo reads the plaque to him.
Apparently this mech belonged to a past elemental master of Earth.
So Geo actually gets to join the ranks of our confirmed readers. Sora reads this screen saying that they're entering the green zone.
According to this, we're heading into the green zone.
Frack gets gets another message from Roz, this one telling him to come to the battle arena.
My master wants me to come to the plaza.
Now, I don't think it's necessarily plausible for them to have a specific notification on some training app saying, come to the tournament battle arena, so I think this is just a text from Roz. So that is a confirmed pink for Frack, which I am a little bit surprised by. He was on my short list for not being able to read. Although I guess we don't know for sure what language the text was sent in. It's possible it was modern day Serpentine, which would also mean that Roz can write in modern day Serpentine, which is kind of cool. Aaron reads meet with Roz on Blecht's calendar.
Meet with Roz?
Sounds like evidence.
And Sora mentions that Jordana gave her an Empyrean math equation.
And this is an Imperium math problem.
And I know I said I wasn't tracking math stats, but this is kind of too wild and I need to mention it. Imperium apparently has an entirely different math system, despite sharing a language system with Ninjago, both spoken and written. Like, do they just have such advanced math that they had to form different math, or was it different math that sprung up from the ground up? This stuff is so interesting to me. And then Devonian is another new language to add to the list, and our new friend Zur gets a cyan confirmation for reading it for us.
I can help you translate this book.
All right, we're almost done here, folks. Dragons Rising, Season 3, Part 1. There's this thing we see in Zane's internal systems where, like, there's just a bunch of spinning letters. There's also this readout from inside Zane's systems, which I find fascinating because it's all so utterly meaningless. At the top, it says scan because that's what he's doing, I guess. That checks out. The bottom left says FOUMD. My best guess is that this is a typo and it's supposed to say found, but even then, why is the word found just like randomly in the corner? And then in the bottom right, it just says proximity. No proximity readout next to it. There's no like accompanying numbers. It just says proximity. Awesome. And then I don't know what this is in the top right either. Is this like Morse code or something? Zane's systems remain a complete mystery. Frack has books about cave writing, apparently.
I can't translate these without my books.
Again, it is unclear what language those might be in. Nia reads this Labo sign.
Labo's totally rad arcade Labo.
Wildfire mentions having to learn about grammar.
All that grammar and spelling.
She and Frohickey both get their pink confirmations in the same episode. Wildfire by reading the letter from Roby, and Frohickey by reading instructions left for him by Zane.
The city of temples was attacked!
Just walk up to the portal and state your desired destination.
Aaron proceeds to give us the most depressing pink confirmation in the whole series with Reed's parents' tombstones.
Mom! Dad!
Yikes. The last thing of note in this part is Kai and Nia researching together. Kai gives up because he can't figure out that the information in the book is alphabetized, which Nia immediately catches.
Here, prismatic steel. Everything's in alphabetical order.
And then Season 3, Part 2, the final installment of Ninjago that we have as of the 15th anniversary. Gandalaria has a shopping list that she reads.
New hexes.
Lee apparently wrote a book, which Lloyd reads the title of.
Between you and Lee?
We also see Lee carving gravestones for all the people he's trapped. The second time on this list that we have given people points for carving gravestones. So, that's a little strange.
I'd have 2 nickels.
Both Jay and Nia read these gravestones.
Read the names.
Strong McCool guy? Maya McCool guy?
Aaron's parents have a conspiracy board with writing which only one of them could have written, so we know at least one of them can read and write. Fritz reads the title of Booby Traps and How to Survive Them, a book which seems to be showing up constantly on this list.
Booby Traps and How to Survive Them. People sure seem to lose a lot of copies of these.
And then our last 2 points to be awarded. They're both pink level confirmations. The first is Nia reading directions, which you might think is a little bit of iffy territory. You know, we're not counting maps and we don't see what she's reading from.
As long as Black's directions to the cave are accurate.
But we do know that they are in fact written descriptive directions because of the other person who reads them, the coconut clone of Gandalaria.
West past Mount Mollin. Yowza! Those directions are outdated.
We have pink level confirmation for a coconut. Really just a great way to send us off, don't you think? Now, that is the whole series as of this recording. Let's go through the stats, shall we? Who was our most literate character in the show? Well, a bit of a shakeup, but not overly surprising. It's Jay in first place with 14 total pink level evidences over the course of the series. Really solid reading by him out there. In second place, not to be separated from her yang, is Nia with a very respectable 12 pinks. Zane is rounding out third place with 8 pink and an impressive 4 cyan entries. Lloyd is surprisingly tied with Zane on pinks, 8 altogether. Weirdly enough, Kai and Wu share a spot with 5 pinks each. Really surprised to see Wu so low. Tied with the person that I was convinced couldn't read is kind of crazy. We've got Aaron with 4 pinks. Sora appropriately follows behind, tied with Garmadon with 3 pinks. The last people beating out at least one of our original ninja, who is, of course, Cole with 2 pinks. He shares that spot with Misako, perhaps foretold to us by that one shot at the end of Crystallized. Our next ninja to place is Wildfire with 1 pink and a bunch of supporting evidences, followed by Frack with his 1 pink, and then, predictably enough, our last ninja to place is Ryu with 3 pieces of gray evidence that I still do not know what to do with. We have 44 characters with pink level confirmations and 74 characters with any level of evidence, which I happened to notice. That list in particular is obviously going to be incomplete. We have 7 alternate written systems within the show. The Old Tongue, which is read by Zane, Wu, and perhaps the people in the Neverrealm. I am assuming the Green Ninja Prophecy is written in the Old Tongue. It's the ancient language of their ancestors. I hope that's okay. Serpentine Hieroglyphs, deciphered by Zane, Pythor, and Scales. The language predating the first Spinjitzu Master, which is translated by Zane. This might be called Merlopian, or Merlopian could be a bonus 8th written language using the Ninjargon alphabet, but we don't have confirmation on any of that. The Roxian, read by Roz. Devonian, read by Zur. The Cave language, which Frack has translation books for. And Modern Day Serpentine, which we don't see anyone reading, possibly Frack, but we know that Kai, Cole, and Jay cannot read it. We have 17 characters that we know can write. Jay is the only one in the series who confirmably writes multiple times, that being his message in a bottle in season 6, Blueprints in season 9, and Tombstone in season 11. Our others are Dr. Julian, Captain Soto, the Mailman, the Cloud Kingdom Monks, Nia, Gale Gossip, the first Spinjitzu Master, Clutch Powers, Lloyd, Kai, Sora, the Administration Workers, Zane, Blecht, Lee, and at least one of Aaron's parents. Those are the main stats. You can pour through the spreadsheets if you like, but some top level takeaways. Jay is both our strongest reader and writer. He is most likely to write a book after he is retired by far, following in his father's footsteps, hopefully in a better way. Though Kai did receive all of his reading and writing confirmations, there is enough of him not being able to read particularly well that I think we can conclude he probably has a stunted reading ability. Maybe because he had to drop out of school, he's stuck at like a 2nd grade reading level, explaining why his scene in Hands of Time is a little bit of a wreck. I think that this is like his first time ever having to do research.
I haven't got a clue.
Nia, I think, absolutely did any reading required of the family business while they were on their own. Lloyd can read just fine, but for whatever reason, only ever writes with some sort of a bizarre twist, like carving letters into palm fronds or writing an entire message upside down. Equally weird, Cole can only read when the words are engraved into a plaque, and his reading ability just appears to completely shut down anytime other people are looking at the same thing he is.
What does it say? What does it say?
Wu can read multiple languages, but weirdly enough, we can't confirm that he knows how to write. He just scribbles. He didn't sign his name, and maybe it's because he doesn't even know how to sign his name, and it cost him the love of his life. Frack reads some sort of language, which I would like to headcanon is modern day Serpentine. Roz has a smartphone and is probably addicted to Candy Crush. And I think Ryu is just playing coy about being able to read and is secretly fluent in every single language in this universe. Honestly, I'm still just really bummed about Cole. After our one plaque that killed the run, he never even gets another pink confirmation, which is just insanely frustrating. We were this close. I guess his read count being that low, you could argue that these are just mistakes in the script that you could effectively retcon later. Like, it's not really an established, tried and true fact about his character like it is for Jay or Nia. So if the show wanted to change its mind about this and retroactively make Cole illiterate, I think they could. In fact, hold on a second, I'm gonna cook something up here. I think there's a plausible way to explain this moment away if you need to. Like, it's a little forced, but it's doable. In this scene, which is like the thing that breaks Cole's reading streak, the entire room and the letters specifically light up with his elemental power.
What's that light shining out of her?
Elemental energy.
The way Cole connects with his elemental power has been described recently as a voice. In Dragon's Rising, famously, he describes the earth as screaming.
Like the land itself is screaming.
So I think you could argue that at this point, when Cole's powers are at their strongest, with words carved into the stone, he is not reading here, but his elemental powers are communicating the message carved into the earth to him. And if you do that, everything after that point makes so much more sense. His line in Seabound is him genuinely not knowing how to read.
What does it say?
And Geo reading the plaque about the Earth mech is his boyfriend reading something for him because he knows that he can't read. It makes this moment so adorable. Not that it's not already cute. And of course, it explains why there's no other instance of him reading the entire show. So there you go. Cole can't read. If you want to buy into the idea that elemental powers can read for you if they are strong enough. So like technically, we got him. I see this as an absolute win. Look, I'm gonna be real. This doesn't really feel like a great ending. Really, what most of you came into this video for was an insane series of events where one of our main characters somehow eludes having to read for like 15 seasons straight, and we all lose our minds every time it happens. Like, that's certainly what I was hoping for. Kai and Cole, I thought were going to be our best bets, but they didn't quite come through how I was hoping they would. I guess like we've still got Ryu, unconfirmed. He's a mainline ninja and he can't read. Ryu! But it's Ryu. He's a dragon. He can't even talk. It's not some huge revelation that we don't know if he can read. Plus, he's a Dragon's Rising character. He's only been in a fraction of the episodes, so who really cares? Really, the disappointment for me is that all of the classic era characters have pink evidence. The core ninja team is completely literate for the entirety of the show's run. Or are they? Let me ask you, has something seemed absent from this video to you? A presence who has gone strangely overlooked? especially for this channel.
We haven't met. I am Pixel.
Pixel can't read! I didn't want to believe it either. I didn't even think it would be a possibility until I got through season 11 and I still had nothing. But despite the amount of time she spends on computers and in computers and reading charts and giving exposition and her name being an acronym, she never reads! It doesn't happen, we never get it. Not a once! All y'all be forgetting about Pixel like I wouldn't notice. Yes, Pixel, main member of the ninja team. She is not a ninja, she is Samurai X 2.0, but she debuts in season 3 and is arguably a part of the team from that point forward. She has been living with the team ever since, goes on missions with them, has been on the ninja team wiki for a while. Did you really think I did this whole intro of my headcanons and predictions and wouldn't include Pixel? We gotta talk about Pixel next. Big shocker, I think Pixel can read.
Feeble and incorrect.
I haven't mentioned her all video because I knew that all of the facts had to be in one place in order for you to believe me and to convey how utterly wild this is. All of season 3, she does not read. We see her do math. We see her alter code, which again, we don't know if code in Ninjago involves a language. She sits at this computer and types at this computer and we see what she's typing, and it's old Ninjargon, so it's hard to tell, but I think these are numbers. I know they're not words because then this word has a question mark in the middle of the word. She's just typing a series of letters and or numbers with question marks in between, and then it gives her a giant question mark, and she's like, I guess that there's no answers to our riddle.
I've run every combination of these clues through my database to see how they're connected, but there is no correlation.
The keyboard has no markings on the keyboard. There's this like wall of tiny, tiny thin lines that I think are implied to be text, but we don't know. We don't know if she's reading that. What I think this is code. The code that doesn't require language and apparently consists of a lot of question marks. She has the entire history of Ninjago in her database. We learn in this scene.
Everything in Ninjago history has been recorded inside me.
But again, does information being directly beamed into your head count as being able to read? No, because you're not reading it. It's just injected straight into your brain. That's not the same. All of her time in Zane's head. Look at this interface. There's no text here. Here's this graph at the bottom, and then here's a number of dots, which maybe emulates like a bar graph. I don't know. We've got 2 green dots out of 6 green dots at the bottom here. We've got like a color wheel. I don't know what's going on here. The only text we see is potentially right here, which is again, so tiny. We don't know what that says. We don't know if Pixel's referencing it. This could just be code gibberish. All of the time that she spends in Zane's head, there is nothing to read in there. Once she becomes Samurai X, we do in fact see that her systems have language, words on screen in her Samurai X mech. But this is also stuff that's repurposed from Nia's Samurai X cave. And even though we have a language-based error flashing on screen, the error is also communicated through the voice system on the mech.
Warning, 1% remaining.
So there is no way to prove that Pixel is reading this. I thought for sure we would get confirmation when Pixel pulled out the instruction manuals. There's a joke that happens several times that Pixel has written these operation manuals for the ninja, and then the ninja ignore them. And it's funny, it's a good joke.
Please be sure to thoroughly read.
But it turns out she never says that she's the one who wrote these operation manuals.
Each vehicle is equipped with an operations manual.
She just provides them. She says that they're there, and then the ninja ignore them.
Operation manuals are inside each.
No time for manuals, Pixel.
Yeah, sure, the fact that she's the one who designed all of the vehicles that they're using implies that she would be the one to have written the operation manuals, but you know what? We don't know that, and we can't run off of implication in this video. You know this. This one, I forgot about. So at the beginning of the island, they're all talking about the storm belt, and there's only one person who's made it through the storm belt alive, and Pixel is like, oh yes, and she pulls up this article and seemingly begins summarizing it.
He claims it was blown into a storm belt and eventually crashed, on an uncharted island.
First problem with this, we know she has seen this article before. She is not coming across this piece of text on screen for the first time, meaning her summarizing it doesn't mean anything. She could have had someone else read it to her. She could have talked to someone about the article. Any number of things could have happened for her to ingest the information in this article without having read it. My other thought was, though it sounds like she's summarizing the article, it's possible she's just quoting it verbatim here, because she is looking at the screen. So if this says what Pixel's line is, that would be proof that she's reading. So I went to go translate this gibberish. All gibberish. We know that she's designed things, that she's able to read blueprints, but again, we can't assume what is necessary information on blueprints in this universe. I got excited about this. This looks like some interface that has language maybe to do with it. There's a number of symbols here. No, these are all number symbols. These are numbers in Ninjago. So this one piece of information we got from Dragon's Rising, also completely useless on this front. Pixel can't read. She never does, and at this rate, she never will. At first, I thought this conclusion was extremely counterintuitive. After all, Pixel is a robot. It only makes sense. It's a basic ability that you could program into her. Shouldn't she be able to read? Like, she is constantly gathering information for the team, relaying information. She's one of the most observant people on the team. To an extent, it seems almost impossible that she wouldn't be able to read. But after thinking about it for a little bit, I think it makes more sense than you might realize. Let me put it this way. All of our other characters can read Ninjago the way I can read English. And I think that Pixel can read Ninjago the way that I can read Ninjago. I am sure that Pixel has access to translation tools within her systems, but in order to understand a given piece of text, she does have to go through that process of translating it into a different text that she actually intuitively understands. Any words in Ninjago have no automatic meaning to her. Like, if Pixel existed in our universe, I feel like she would be writing down all of her notes using ones and zeros. Pixel doesn't read words, she reads data. Thinking about it a little bit, no one has actually ever read any of Pixel's manuals, so I guess it's possible if you crack one of these open, the inside is just a bunch of code. That's why no one's read it. They've purposely been ignoring it because they can't read it, because Pixel has written it in a form that they cannot read. Also worth noting, I think, is that Pixel was made by a guy who we don't have confirmation can read. Yeah, that's right. Cyrus Borg never got his pink level certification. We never see Borg read either. He's only ever interacting with code.
I wrote the code, but he controls it.
So it might turn out that the entire Borg family is just a bunch of elite and illiterate tech geniuses. Which again, I think kind of weirdly makes sense. The reason that Pixel is able to extract so much data from the interfaces in technology all around her without reading is that the guy who designed 90% of the technology in Ninjago can't read. So he designed them so that he could understand them, and in order for him to understand them, they can't have words. This guy made one of the most advanced inventions of all time, and he tried to give her a cutesy little acronym name, and he misspelled the acronym. Pixel just sounds like it has an A in there, and so that's why he spelled it the way he did.
Primary Interactive External Assistant Lifeform.
External does not start with an X. Maybe it's just like a cutesy little thing because he's trying to make it work, but maybe it's because he doesn't know how to spell external. He just hears X and he's like, so that starts with an X, right? This whole situation reeks of a guy who can't read very well trying to do a cute little word thing. Like, in a way, I feel like it's the most obvious answer in the universe. Which of our characters can't read? It turns out it's the character whose name is literally misspelled. It's kind of beautiful. So, what have we learned today? I don't know. I have no clue. What was the point in doing any of this? Why did I put myself through this? Why are you watching this video? It's so long and so pointless. is why I've always got to rep for my girl so hard, because everyone's always forgetting her.